Hey guys, November the 16th, 2025, and I hope everybody's been having a wonderful day so far today. I hope everybody's having a nice, safe, sober weekend this weekend. It is a beautiful day here in South Carolina. We got clear blue skies, as you can see behind me. There is not a cloud in the sky again today. It's just an absolutely beautiful day. Got some really nice sunshine shining on me right now. The sun just always cheers me up. If I've been stuck in the house all day long for whatever reason, maybe I'm not feeling well, it just really starts to depress me, just being in those closed-in walls and, blinds being closed, it's dark and everything in there. And then, just getting outside into the sun, it just really does something to you. It just really lightens up my mood, makes me happy. It's one of the things that when I was really ill, I just didn't realize how important just getting out in the sunshine was. And, at one point, I just made myself get up out of the bed. It was one of the days my wife had left to go to work, and I was home all by myself. And there wasn't somebody there to go, no, you can't go outside. So I just got up one day and went out and sat on the porch and just soaked in the sunshine. And I had to go out there with a walker. It was pretty dangerous because I was having a really hard time walking during that period of time as well. And took my little walker, I got on my porch and just sat down in the chair, and the sun just shined on me. And it really did help me out so much. It really just started bringing me out of that deep, dark hole that I'd gotten myself into, and just started bringing me out, just making me a warmer person. I was happier, and I started trying to do that every day. It became a goal of mine, just get up out of the bed and get outside and enjoy some sunshine every single day. And, for any of you guys out there right now that are sick, you just got diagnosed with liver disease, or maybe you just got home from the hospital, pancreatitis. Like, I know that one of our subscribers right now, Adam, and Adam, I know you're in the hospital right now dealing with pancreatitis. I hope that you get to feeling better soon, my friend. I know how bad that is to deal with pancreatitis. Trust me, I know. I was talking with Adam in the comments last night, and for any of you guys want to jump over there in the comments and just leave Adam a nice little, I hope you get well better soon or something like that, that'd be awesome. I know he was in the comments for yesterday's video, the one where I was talking about, what was I talking about? I can't remember. It was yesterday's video. And like I said, he was in the comments talking about how he's in the hospital. So if any of you guys want to jump over there and just wish him well, that'd be awesome. I would greatly appreciate it. If not, whatever, it's cool too. But like I said, if you do want to say, wishing you well or whatever, just go to yesterday's comment section. I know he was in there. He might comment on today's video as well, but it's Adam. Adam Reed is the one that's in the hospital right now. He lives in the UK. And like I said, Adam, I hope you get to feeling better soon. Pancreatitis is it's absolutely horrible. It's pancreatitis is what started this whole entire journey for me. I was at home, I thought that I was dealing with a really bad hangover. I'd been on a really heavy bender, drinking super duper heavy. I was on one of those half a gallon of vodka plus, 6 double shots of Fireball and a 6-pack of Voodoo Ranger kind of binges every single day. I was, right there. And I had been really drinking heavy. And, every day when I was waking up, I was just waking up with these really, really, really hard hangovers. And that one morning I woke up and just things didn't feel right. It just felt worse than usual. I got up that morning and just felt really, really ill. That was normal to feel sick. It's normal to wake up in the morning with a hangover and to feel nauseous and to have a headache and all that stuff. But like I said, that morning things just felt odd. They felt different. I woke up that morning, my stomach was hurting me really bad. And before you know it, I was in the bathroom. I'm sorry, I walked outside, right out here outside of that little room downstairs. I went out there to throw up because I didn't want to wake my wife up. It was like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning or something. And I walked out that side door and I threw up. And it was dark. I didn't really see anything. But then, I got sick again and went to the bathroom. And when I did, I was throwing up black coffee grinds. And I didn't say anything to anybody. I thought this is just, Coca-Cola that I was drinking earlier or whatever. I didn't pay any attention to it. It worried me, but in the back of my mind, I was thinking, I'll be okay. I'm just going to rest, and I'm going to do like I always do whenever I get sick like this, and I'm just going to stop drinking, and I'll stop for a week, and things will get back to normal. And this time it didn't. That time, things did not get back to normal. As a matter of fact, things got worse every single day. And this went on for about 4 days. I kept the black coffee grinds to myself. I'd never told my wife, and I was throwing up black coffee grinds, like I said, nonstop for 4 days. And on the last day, I'd been hiding all this from my wife. She just knew that I didn't feel well, and I told her I thought that I had the flu or something. And that day she left to go to work. She brought me a little cooler in the bedroom because she knew that I was not feeling well. And my wife's awesome. She came in the bedroom, put a cooler beside the bed with a bunch of drinks in it. Just set me up. She put a trash can beside the bed with a trash bag in it. Set me up a bunch of stuff on my little table beside my bed, some stuff to snack on throughout the day, some Gatorades. I mean, she had me set up, medication, everything sitting there waiting on me, and she left to go to work. And when she got home from work that day, that's when she found me. I was just laying in the bed. I couldn't move. To be quite honest with you guys, I really felt like I was going to pass away. I could feel it. I could feel it coming on. If any of you guys have ever gotten really close like that before, you know what I'm talking about. You just know. There's like this instinctual feeling that you get. It's like that. Well, this is what it is. I'm at that point right now, and you just know it. Just deep down inside, Like I said, my wife came home. She found me. There was black coffee grind throw up all over the bed. It was all over the floor. I had gotten up at some point and tried to make it to the bathroom, and I threw up all the way to the bathroom. It was all over the toilet, all around the sides of the toilet. I don't remember why I missed. I think I was just trying to get to the bathroom in time, and I was moving so slow. I just, got sick all over the place. And like I said, she came home, and it looked like something off of a horror movie. I'm just laying in the bed. My eyes were all sunken in. I had black circles underneath my eyes. My cheeks are all sunken in. My skin was super pale and white. I was throwing up. There's stuff all over the place. I could barely speak when my wife got home. I was so weak. I couldn't move anymore. I couldn't get out of the bed anymore to throw up. As a matter of fact, it got to a point where I got so weak where I couldn't even lean over the side of the bed to throw up in that trash can anymore. I just started throwing up all over myself. That's how weak I'd become. And that's when my wife said, "You gotta go to the hospital," and sent me off to the hospital, and found out that I had pancreatitis, and that I had internal bleeding going on during that period of time. And they were able to patch me up, and I stayed in the hospital for like 3 weeks that time and got out. And that's how I found out about pancreatitis. Although I'd had pancreatitis multiple times leading up to that, that was the first time that I was ever hospitalized, that I ever got that sick from it. Any other time in the past, I was able to recover. I would just, wait it out, stay at home. I wouldn't drink. I would take a week or two off of drinking, and if I took any time off, it was always like a week. There was only one time I took 2 weeks off, but I'd take a week off of drinking, really take care of myself, not eat a bunch of crazy food, just basically drink like water and some Gatorade, some kind of electrolyte or something like that, and just really just rest. And I always got better, but this time it didn't work out that way. It just didn't. Like I said, I ended up getting very, very ill and ended up in the hospital. And that's what led me on this journey. There's a whole heck of a lot more to the story, but like I said, that's what started me on this journey. That's what started this whole entire thing for me. And then, I ended up in the hospital multiple times after that, had multiple surgeries. And then I had my TIPS procedure, my second TIPS procedure in June of 2023, I think it was. Because I'd already had one in January, and that one didn't work out. They couldn't get through the blood clot in my portal vein. But in June, they were able to get through it, got the TIPS placed. I made the first video for this channel that April. And, you know, I was having all these surgeries that summer. It was a very busy summer. And I didn't see this channel again until that November. It was right Thanksgiving Day that I found it and saw that first video I had 27,000 views on it. And I just kept doing this channel ever since. I had just completely forgotten that I did that original first video. And when I looked at the comments, I saw all these people were wondering if I was still alive and stuff like that. And I just felt like I was obligated to hop on there and let everybody know I was okay. I had originally planned on doing this channel. I wasn't originally planning on doing it every single day, but I was planning on making videos trying to help people with AUD, or especially people that were sick and dealing with health consequences because of their consumption. I just wanted to, you know, be a voice for those people and let them know they're not alone, and you know, just be someone there just to help people along through the process, because it's very isolating, and you know, it can really take a toll on your psyche, because you know that you caused this to yourself. And now not only are you you know, putting yourself through all of this because of the health consequences, but you're also putting your friends and your family in a position as well, because number one, they're worried if you're going to be alive through this. You know, so we put a lot of worry on our friends and family. Not like they weren't already worried about us to begin with, because, you know, of our drinking, how much we're consuming. You know, we cause a lot of stress on our friends and family when, you know, they're concerned about us and they don't know how to approach us. They don't know what to say. They don't want to offend us or upset us, and, you know, maybe have us just take off and go get drunk or something. So, you know, they're always walking around on eggshells around us, and, you know, they're already confused and scared and all this stuff leading up. And then we end up in the hospital. And now they really have to worry about what's going on with us. You know, and it's, like I said, it's not just the stress that we put on ourselves. There's a lot of stress that we put on the outside world, you know, on our friends, family, co-workers, just the community in general. Like I said, it puts a lot of stress on everybody. And today's video, I actually was going to talk about something else, but now that I've gone in 12 minutes into talking about what I've been talking about, I guess I'm just going to continue to discuss this video. And I guess really what that's going to be about is that there are consequences to this, and especially health-wise. You know, alcohol is very dangerous. I mean, it really is poison. When we consume alcohol, you know, once our liver starts to break it down, it turns into a substance called acetaldehyde, which is, in fact, poison. It's what's making you feel bad in the hangover, plus the fact that you're dehydrated and everything. But the acetaldehyde, once it gets converted to that, like I said, that is absolute poison. You know, and our body's trying to break it down, get rid of it, and you know, depending on how much you drank the day before is going to depend on how long you feel bad, because your body's trying to get those, you know, those toxins out. You know, and you continue to do that to yourself over and over and over and over and over again, day in and day out. You know, our bodies start to break down. You know, our liver can only handle but so much. You know, our liver has over 500 functions to it, which is something I had absolutely no idea about until I got sick. I didn't look into any of this stuff until after I got sick. I didn't know anything about the liver. I knew that the liver, you know, filtered out the alcohol out of our blood. I knew that had something to do with that, and I knew your liver could regrow itself, but I didn't know the full details of all the different things. And I still don't know every single one of the functions. I just know our liver has 500 functions to it, you know, and there's so many important things that your liver does for you. You know, it stores glucose in the liver, which when you need a little extra boost of energy, your liver will release, I think it's called glucagon, which it stores in the liver. It filters out your blood. And I'm sorry if I get anything wrong, guys, you know, feel free to correct me in the comments. You know, I'm not a doctor or anything. I'm talking about all this right off the top of my head. I don't have any notes for today or anything. Like I said, I had another topic I was going to talk about, but I kind of went down this road. So I figure I'm just going to talk about this. Like I said, you know, there are health consequences to this. But once again, like I said, the liver has over 500 functions, filtering your blood, getting all the toxins out of our blood. The liver does regenerate. It is the only organ that we have that can regenerate itself. It's one of the things that leads to us ending up with things like cirrhosis, because every single time that your liver's trying to repair itself, things start to happen, and at a certain point it continues to try to repair itself. It starts to create scar tissue, which is cirrhosis. And it'll start storing fat in the liver as well, which leads to the fatty liver. And the thing is, with fatty liver, and I talk about this all the time, going to your doctor, getting a regular checkup once a year, twice a year, whatever. It could be something as simple as just going to your GP and saying, I want to have some blood work drawn. I just want to see what my liver functions are, what my A1C is. Your A1C is like your report card for your blood glucose levels, like how often you've been spiking, things like that. But it gives them a really good idea of what your blood glucose has been looking like. It could also let them know if you might have diabetes or not. So, it might be something where they could discover that you're pre-diabetic. They'll have you come back and do a fasting blood test, which is, they'll tell you don't eat anything after 9 o'clock the night before, and then come in first thing in the morning. You can't eat or drink anything. I think they'll allow you to drink like black coffee, but they have you come in first thing in the morning and they take your blood, fasting blood. So while you're fasting, they take a sample of your blood, and then they'll check it while you're fasting and see what that looks like. And based on that fasting glucose, they'll be able to pretty much to determine if you're diabetic or not, or if you're pre-diabetic or something like that. And if you find out that you're pre-diabetic, there are things that you can do, like changing your diet, starting to eat properly, cut out the alcohol, cut out candy, sweets, sugars, soda, things like that. You really could turn it all around. So that's one of those things. You might find out that you're pre-diabetic, which you could reverse and get back on course and not end up with diabetes. And I can promise you, diabetes is something that you do not want to have. I was just talking with my wife about this just the other day, and I told her, out of all the stuff that I have wrong with me, diabetes has got to be the most irritating one, because it's just so many complications with the diabetes. There's always something going on, and there's so much stuff involved. Wearing a constant glucose monitor all the time, wearing an insulin pump, because my pancreas is shot. The last time I spoke with my doctor about my pancreas, I only have like 30 or 40% of my pancreas left, because it had already shrunk leading up to this last appointment when I met with my pancreatic specialist. And when they looked at it, he said my pancreas had shrunk in half from the last time I'd seen him, and that had only been 3 months before. But I don't know what's going on with my pancreas at the moment. I go see my pancreatic specialist next month. I have so many doctor's appointments in December. So you guys are about to be hearing a lot about my health coming up here shortly. I've got my pancreatic specialist, my liver specialist, my interventional radiologist. I've got another hospital that I have to go to speak to them about getting my tips cleared out. To see if they'll even attempt to do it. I've already been turned down by 3 different hospitals, said, no way, Jose, we're not touching you with a 10-foot pole. You're just way too complicated. So I've got a lot of stuff coming up here. Like I said, I'm going to be finding out all kinds of stuff. I've got an MRI coming up. I have yet to have that colonoscopy and the endoscopy done, which is coming up in a few weeks as well. And I'm having that done in the same day. That's going to be an interesting day. They're going to be going down my throat and going up my rear end in the same day. And I know I've got to drink like a gallon of this like laxative formula to just completely clean me out. Once again, there is so much stuff involved in this, guys, when you get sick because of drinking. I mean, if you get sick with anything, caused by anything, it's not fun to deal with. But, once again, alcohol causes a lot of diseases. And, by stopping drinking with a doctor's permission, I just want to throw that disclaimer in here. Don't go just quitting cold turkey without speaking with the doctor, getting some kind of guidance on this, because it can be life-threatening, guys. I'm not joking about this. I'm being serious. There are people here on the channel. For any of you guys that could throw in the comments section your experiences with quitting alcohol without speaking with a doctor and just stopping cold turkey. Any of you guys who have had like horrible experiences with that, would you mind sharing it? You know, you don't have to share the whole thing. You could just say, hey, I had a bad experience with that, because it would be good for people that are considering getting sober, you know, to see that, to know for a fact that this can be dangerous. There's a lot of people here on this channel that have ended up in the ER because they stopped abruptly. There's only 2 substances that can actually take your life. And the 2 of those are alcohol, and the other one is benzodiazepines. If you stop those 2 abruptly, like I said, they can take your life. And the crazy thing about it is, too, you know, alcohol and benzodiazepines, probably 2 of the most widely used substances out there. You know, there's probably more people in the United States that are on benzodiazepines and drinking alcohol than probably anything else, I would imagine. And those are the 2 substances, like I said, that if you go to quit abruptly, it can take your life. I mean, it causes seizures, heart attacks, stroke. And benzodiazepines is a whole other rabbit hole to go down that can cause a lot of problems if you try to stop them. I can't remember the name of it, but there is a phenomenon that happens to people that have been on them for very long periods of time, and they go to stop. It starts with an A. It's like it's not arachnophobia, but it's something like that. Agathopope. Maybe it's AG something. I can't remember what the name of it is. And like I said, I'm sorry, I don't have my notes in front of me today. I was going to talk about something totally different, but then I got skewed off onto this. But there is a phenomenon that happens for people that have been on benzodiazepines for long periods of time. It doesn't happen to everybody, but it does to a lot. Like there's a psychologist, a very well-known psychologist, Dr. Jordan Peterson, or he might be a psychiatrist, but you know, he's talked publicly about you know, his struggles with benzos. I think he was on Valium, and he was on it for like 20-something years or something like that. And he told his doctor, you know, I want to get off of these. And he went to stop and had serious health side effects because of it. It caused him very serious problems. I think he's still dealing with the side effects from stopping using those. And there were, I think, a couple of years of him going through some really hard times because of it. So, you know, once again, the 2 of those substances, if you stopped abruptly, can cause some serious health problems. So just be careful, guys. But, you know, once again, you know, stopping drinking and staying sober can really help to prevent you from having these problems. You know, the one thing about pancreatitis is that not all pancreatitis is caused because of alcohol consumption. I just throw that out there really quick because it's not. There are some people who just have genetic disorders who end up with pancreatitis because of that. If you have diabetes, can put you in the category at high risk for having, you know, pancreatitis as well. There's a bunch of diabetic medications out there, and I was on 2 of them. And I asked my endocrinologist one time, what is going on here? You put me on this medication. I had just gotten out of the hospital with pancreatitis again. And this is after I got sick the initial time. It was like a year later or 2 years later. It was right after I'd gotten sick. We went to Disney World, and I ended up in the hospital with pancreatitis after that. And I was doing some research on my own, just trying to see what might have caused it, because I wasn't drinking anymore. I didn't know at that point that I had chronic pancreatitis. I think I found out right after that. But I found out that one of the medications that I was taking for my diabetes causes pancreatitis. And I talked to my doctor about it, and I'm like, what's going on? Why'd you put me on this? And I have pancreatic problems. He was like, oh, I didn't even think about that. So they took me off that medication, changed me up, and I don't think I've had any like real serious. I've had pancreatitis since, but I haven't ended up in the hospital since I got taken off that medication, which makes me think that might have been what was causing my issues. Although it could have been the alcohol, but even though I wasn't drinking during that period of time, it could have just been because I have chronic pancreatitis. And I just have to be really careful about what I consume, which is a whole other thing. You know, like I was talking about Adam, who's one of the subscribers here on the channel. He's in the hospital right now dealing with that. And I will guarantee you that he's in the hospital right now, MPO, which means he's not allowed to eat or drink anything. It's one of the horrible parts about having pancreatitis when you're hospitalized. They don't let you eat or drink anything because they want to give your pancreas a chance to rest. So they'll probably do 4 or 5 days, maybe a week of MPO. You're not allowed to eat or drink a thing. They'll give you one of those little like sponges on a stick that you can put in your mouth to kind of wet things up, but that's it. You know, you have never felt so parched in your life and so hungry when they do that to you. But they need to. It's just part of the healing process with pancreatitis. Another reason why you do not want to end up with it. And staying sober today can help really prevent you from ending up in the hospital with this. You know, there's no like warning signs or anything like that. You know, you might start feeling a little bad leading up to it, but one of the hard parts about this is that if you're used to feeling like crap all the time, like I was, it was really hard to distinguish between, okay, I actually have something really wrong with me, or am I just hungover? And that was always a question that was in the back of my mind. That's why I never took anything that serious, because to me, I was just hungover. You know, I just finished drinking, you know, 1.5 gallons of vodka over a 3-day period. Of course I'm going to feel like trash. But then it would get worse and worse and worse. But, you know, I sat at home dealing with pancreatitis on my own a bunch of times, which was very, very, very dangerous. And it always started with me, too, is that my stomach started to hurt really bad. First, I would start getting sick. I would start throwing up uncontrollably. I didn't know what was going on, no appetite. If I did eat something, I couldn't keep it down. You know, just something as simple as like a steamed potato. And that's the kind of stuff that I would do when I would end up with pancreatitis, just really try to make my diet as bland as I possibly could. White rice, steamed potato, you know, with nothing on it, maybe some mashed potatoes with nothing in them, you know, maybe some saltine crackers or something like that. But that's all that I would eat. And, you know, like I said, it would all start off with a stomach ache, and, you know, I wouldn't know what it was, if it was, you know, because I had been drinking or what, you know, because my stomach was always a wreck when I drank alcohol. So, you know, once again, I wasn't sure what was going on. I'm sitting here just blaming it on the fact that I drank a lot the night before. So I'd have this really bad stomach ache. Then the stomach ache would start getting worse and worse. I would continue to throw up, couldn't keep anything, not even like a sip of water I could keep down. I would throw that up immediately. And it started to progress and start to feel kind of like I was getting the flu. I would start running a fever. I would start sweating, getting chills, just that overall feeling of just complete fatigue. And you guys know what I'm talking about when you have like I said, like the flu or the pneumonia or something like that. When you get really, really ill, you're just so tired and all you want to do is sleep all the time. That's the way that I would get, you know, just completely fatigued, couldn't keep anything down, throwing up, fever, chills, terrible stomach ache, felt like somebody was like, you know, stabbing me in the stomach. And then it would get to the point to where it would move from that till it would start making my back hurt. My stomach would hurt so bad that it felt like somebody had broken my back. It was at the point where I couldn't distinguish between, did I like really hurt my back really bad, or is there something else going on? And I would always think to myself that I'd hurt my back. So, you know, I would get in my bed and, you know, try my best to take care of myself, stop drinking, like I said, put a heating pad, alternate between ice and heat. You know, I would take ibuprofen And one of the worst things I used to do when I ended up with pancreatitis is that because I used alcohol for pain all the time. I used alcohol for emotional pain. I used alcohol for physical pain. I used alcohol a lot for physical pain. I've dealt with pain my whole entire life, and alcohol is a really good painkiller. So in my mind, I'm thinking, I didn't know what it was. So sometimes I would drink to try to alleviate this pain. And here I am trying to force this alcohol down when I already can't keep anything else down, and I'm trying to force down a shot of scotch or something. And that happened one time. That's why I say that. I'd gotten rid of all of my alcohol. My wife left to go over to my in-laws' house, and I was at home, sicker than a dog. I didn't know what to do, and I said, to heck with it. I'm going to try drinking and see if that helps. And all I had left to drink around my house was a bottle of scotch that somebody had given me for Christmas, and I wasn't a scotch drinker, so I didn't drink it. But that day, I dug it up out of my little stash and poured myself a cup and tried drinking it. And it didn't help. All it did was inflame things more and make it even worse. And I'll just never forget, I had gotten up and I was in my backyard walking around back and forth, hoping that just getting up and walking would help alleviate the pain in my back, because I wasn't sure what was going on. But come to find out, the back pain is associated with pancreatitis because you get deferred pain. So the stomach pain will radiate to your back or defer to your back. And a lot of times as well, you'll start getting pain up here in your shoulders in these little spots right up in here. You'll get like, it almost feels like somebody's grabbing your shoulder blade and just pinching it really tight. I would get those pains, and then pains like right here in my neck. Like I said, it almost feels like the flu with a really bad stomach ache, a really bad back pain. And I say this all the time, and I'm not joking. Anytime I've had pancreatitis, my back hurts so bad that when I'm in the hospital bed, I'm flopping around like a fish. I'm not kidding, guys. It hurts that bad. I've been on the hospital bed on my knees, bent over the back of the bed, just rocking back and forth with my pillow, bawling, crying, biting on the pillow. I've got a pin in my mouth that I'm biting on because I hurt so bad. I'm pounding on the bed. I mean, pain, undescribable pain. Just absolutely indescribable. Horrible, horrible pain. There's been so much pain associated with, the stuff that I've dealt with because of my consumption. And that's one thing I can say for sure, that it is very, 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 very painful. And then on top of it, you're throwing up, you can't keep anything down, you feel absolutely horrible, you've got all this pain, and that's just the pancreas. When other things start to go wrong, like your liver or your gallbladder, oh my gosh. When you start having gallbladder problems, it is so painful. And then you're having liver problems on top of it. You're getting pain in your liver. You start getting those pains in your right hand side up here in your shoulder blade. And I mean like really bad right through here, which I didn't realize until way later. And I had dealt with those pain for years. Another thing too is I would just get pain in my liver. I've spoken about this, but just this pain, I would feel my liver all the time. I was walking around and it was like I could feel my liver was sitting in there. It felt like it weighed 50 pounds. If that makes any sense at all, I just had this like weight to my liver all the time. I could feel it it felt like my liver was poking out. I would lay down in the bed and I could put my hand on my left-hand side and kind of push down right below my rib cage, and I could push down. But when I would get on my right-hand side and try to push down right there, right below your rib cage, it was hard as a rock. Even if I was laying down flat in the bed, see if I can show you guys. If I was laying flat in the bed, so here's my rib cage right here. I could push down right here and get all the way up in there and push down. But when I got on this side right here, like this whole area would kind of be like pushed out. And I could push right there, and all this would be super hard. So I could push on my left side and push in. If I was laying in the bed, I could push way down in there. But on my right-hand side, if I tried to push, it was like that whole area about this far down below my rib cage, all of that was rock solid hard. which told me right there that my liver was distended, that there was some stuff going on with it, but I never said a word. And then after I got sick, the first time with pancreatitis, spent 3 weeks in the hospital, I got out and I thought that I was okay. That whole summer, leading up to the September that I got sick again, every single night that I would lay down in my bed, I used to, because I've always been one of those people who just kind of felt around in their belly. Just one day I was laying in my bed and I was feeling around on my left-hand side, and I got down a little bit further, a little bit further than my rib cage, and was kind of pushing down right there, and I felt a big knot, like a big knot. Excuse me, I didn't know what it was, but I had this really big knot right in there, and every night when I would lay down, I would feel for it, and every night it was still there, and I'm talking about like a knot like the size of my fist. I never said a word to anybody, kept quiet, and I'm thinking to myself, I was just in the hospital for 3 weeks. If there was something wrong, they would have found it, so this must be normal. Well, it wasn't, because after I got sick and ended up in the hospital with pancreatitis again that September, and like really almost lost my life that time, they discovered that my spleen was enlarged. So they set me up, this is when they found out that I had cirrhosis, and this is when they sent me home. The hospitalists came in the room and said, you need to go home. You have like a year left to live, maybe. So we want you to go home and spend time with your family. I left the hospital super depressed. I didn't know what to do. And like I said, that's when they found out that my spleen was enlarged. So that January, I went and had my first surgery. And that's when they tried to place the first tips. Meanwhile, while they were in there, they cut off the blood supply to half of my spleen, and half of my spleen died while I was in the hospital. And man, the pain from that was absolutely horrible to go through. I guess my point to today's video is, guys, like I said, I had another subject but kind of went off on this tangent, is that there are real life health consequences to this. And, I wish that wasn't true, but it is. And it's one of the reasons that I come on here and talk about this every single day, is because when I was in active addiction, I refused to look up anything about alcohol-related illnesses or diseases, anything like that. I didn't want to know. I thought that by turning a blind eye to it, putting my blinders on and pretending like it didn't exist, that nothing would ever happen to me. And in the back of my mind, I thought that will never happen to me. Old homeless men who walk around with gloves on with the fingers cut out of them, and, they sleep on a park bench with newspapers for blankets. Those are the people who get cirrhosis, not 40-year-old men with families and, have a job and things like that. I never thought that it's just the stigma that we place on it. You see it in Hollywood, in the movies, things like that, and that's the idea that I had. And I'm not trying to offend anybody by saying that. It's just the reality of it and how I pictured it in my mind. It'll never happen to me. Never. I used to work out. I thought because of that, for whatever reason, I thought that would help me. Well, it didn't. And I almost lost my life because of my drinking. And like I said, the point of this video is that there are real life consequences to consuming alcohol. If you're the type of person who has a drink a week, or a drink every 6 months or something, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Is it good for you? No, it's not. But, I wouldn't be too concerned about that. If you have 2 drinks a year or something, no big deal. The plastic that you're consuming every single day from your food is probably worse for you than that. But if you are consuming alcohol on a daily basis, every other day, every week, you're binge drinking every weekend, and you're blacking out every weekend, but you don't drink during the week, that's binge drinking, and that's very, very dangerous. You're overloading your organs when you do that. But anyway, like I said, there's real life health consequences to this. You can get sick because of this. And it's very serious when it happens. And that's just the reality of it, guys. Like I said, I wish that wasn't true, but it is. And, more than anything else, I just want to make sure that, nobody else ends up getting sick because of this like I did. And I know that that's impossible, and it's still going to happen, and people are going to get sick because of their consumption. It's just the way it works. But by talking about this and trying my best to spread education about the health consequences that come along with, overconsumption of alcohol or consumption of alcohol, period. Just talking about the real life consequences of this and talking about it every single day here on YouTube, that maybe, just maybe, I might be able to save a handful of lives. I know I'm not going to be able to save everybody's, but I can try my best and continue to do these videos every single day. And like I said, try to educate people about this. Try to make people aware that had absolutely no idea. People that didn't even know what the word pancreatitis was. Maybe somebody will watch this video and go, wait a minute, I didn't realize that can happen. I better stop doing this. But, once again, please be careful. Speak with a doctor first. Make sure they give you the green light to go ahead. So anyway, guys, like I said, there are real life health consequences to this. It's unfortunate, but it's just the way that it works. And, like I said, I had another topic for today's video, but once I started going down this rabbit hole, I just decided that I probably need to talk about this, because there are. And, I was saying that for years, I didn't want to look into it. I didn't want to know what could go wrong with me because, God forbid I lose my best friend. I was not willing to give up my alcohol. I didn't know how I was going to live my life without it. Looking back now, living the life that I live, I wish I had given up alcohol years ago. I wish I had never even started drinking it, to be honest with you. But, there's nothing I can do about that now. But what I can do is I can come on here every single day and make videos and try to spread education and talk about this and talk about my experiences with this and talk about my experiences with getting sick because of my consumption. And like I said, maybe, just maybe, I might be able to help some people out there change their lives, actually be present for their children and their families and, turn their lives completely around and not end up in the hospital, not end up with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of medical bills, that could potentially bankrupt you and ruin you financially. I'm not saying that by getting sober that you're going to get rid of all of your health problems and you're never going to have any health problems in general at all. I'm not saying that. What I am saying, though, is that you're greatly going to decrease the chances of you ending up in the hospital with something, some health-related consequence due to your alcohol consumption. Like I said, I just feel compelled to come on here and talk about this every single day. And, one of the things about this as well, if you've never watched the interview that I did on, what's that guy's name? Hard Knocks podcast. I did an interview on there like 2 years ago. And, one of the things I told him is that when I was in the hospital, I made a promise to start doing this. I made a promise that I was going to start making videos and trying to help people. It was one of those, if I make it through this is what I'm going to do. And I lived through it. And I'm filling in my end of the bargain and doing what I promised that I would do. I was told that I wasn't going to be alive Christmas of 2023. They told me that I would be gone at or before the holiday season of 2023, and I'm still here, and we're going into the holiday season of 2025. I'm blown away that I'm still here, and I'm so grateful. And like I said, I'm going to continue to make these videos every single day until I can no longer do it. And guys, I promise you, even if I'm on hospice, which when it comes to that time, I want to stop living here. I want my life to end here at my home. So I'm going to be put on hospice when it gets to that point. And I will still be here making these videos all the way up to the end. It's just what I want to do. It's a promise that I made. And like I said, I will be here every single day up until that point. So you can count on me being here for a really long time, hopefully. But either way, I've accepted my fate and what's going to happen. I caused this to myself. No one else did. I'm the one that picked that bottle up and decided to drink. No one else made me do it. You know, I picked that first drink up and drank it. And from that point forward, you know, I never could stop. Once I had that first drink and got my first real buzz, I was hooked. And I knew from that point forward that this was going to be a problem. And it became a very big problem in my life. But since getting sober and not doing that anymore, I can tell you that, you know, it's no longer a problem in my life, although I'm still suffering the consequences because of it. But, you know, I don't deal with all the other problems because of alcohol. I'm not waking up hungover anymore. I don't have it fogging up my mind. I'm not breaking promises to my wife and my kids because of my consumption, because I feel so bad the next day. You know, that end of my life is doing well. You know, I keep my promises. I fulfill what I say I'm going to do. You know, I'm just still dealing with the health consequences because of this. And I know that day is going to come one day. When it's going to happen, I don't know. Like I said, I'll be finding out a lot more information come December. I'm going to have a lot of information, and I'll be back sharing all of that with you guys and letting you all know where I'm at health-wise, because I think you guys should know. I'm not going to keep it secret. But guys, I think that's it for today. I'm going to go ahead and go in here and hang out with my family for the rest of the afternoon and try to spend some more family time before everybody's got to go back to work and school tomorrow, and finish cooking dinner in here. But once again, thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. And until tomorrow, I will see you guys then. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching. And like I said, guys, there are real life health consequences to this. Let's stay sober today. One more day. Until tomorrow, guys. Y'all have a wonderful night.